Well, Canada, get ready to be a full-on police state, 1984 style. If Parliament passes a few bills, we're going to alert you to. The Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedom is warning specifically about bills C2, C8, and C9. I'm going to summarize them together, and then we'll break them down. If they are passed, they would allow the government to open your mail, criminalize the use of cash, allow for warrantless search, prosecute Canadians for opinions, kick you off the internet, have full access to your social media data by allowing social media companies to basically become an arm of the government, allow your neighbor to report you for possible hate crimes so that the government literally can put you on house arrest for the potential, that's like Minority Report, for the potential to do a hate crime if they just don't like the way you use the internet or your opinions. Joining us to discuss is John Carpe. He's the president of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedom. He's also the author of Corrupted by Fear, How the Charter Was Betrayed and What Canadians Can Do About It. So thank you for joining us. Can you sort of give us an overarching warning about these, and then we'll talk about it little by little. There was someone in the chat saying, I'm from Canada and you're wrong. They didn't say how. So tell us what's the fact.
Well, we're not as bad as the United Kingdom, where, as you know, there were over 12,000 arrests of people for what they said on social media, making comments against immigration policy. We're not there yet, but we are poised to take that leap. If all of this legislation gets through, so the bills C2, C8, C9, they're all in second reading before the House of Commons. And the House of Commons is sitting for quite a few more weeks before Christmas. So there's ample opportunity. The Liberal government of Marks Carney, as I call him, it's actually Mark Carney, but I say Marks Carney, they have a minority. So, however, it's not that hard, depending on which bill. If they get the support from one of the opposition parties, they can still push things through. So the things that you mentioned are accurate. If all three bills pass in their current form, it will be illegal to use cash in amounts 10,000 or more. Canada Post will have the authority to open letter mail without a warrant. The government will be able to order to kick individual Canadians off the internet by ordering a telecommunications service provider. So some company that provides your internet or provides your phone, they can order that company to kick an individual off phone and off internet. And also there's going to be a lot more prosecutions for hate speech, even though they can't really define hate because it's an emotion and it's subjective. But if these three bills pass, we're going to be close to a police state. We'll certainly be at the mercy of the government in terms of how bad they want to make it for us.
So what is the justification that they would use in this Combating Hate Act? No, it's the Cybersecurity Act that would allow them to kick you off the internet. So they're saying because we can't allow hateful people the internet. So by their logic, if I'm a hateful person, I just need to, like my mom used to say, sit in the corner and think about it. That's what they want to happen.
The pretext is always safety and security. Politicians never take away your rights and freedoms without offering a nice sounding pretext. And so the Canadian government's very good at messaging, well, we want to protect you from hate. We want to protect you from hate speech. We want to protect you from misinformation, from disinformation. So therefore, you've got to give up your freedom of expression and you have to let us regulate and control the internet. We already have a bill that was passed 2 years ago that empowers the Canadian Radio Telecommunications Commission, which is a federal national regulatory body, to monitor websites and podcasts for Canadian content. They haven't yet taken actions to start defining it and imposing it, but it's there on the books. And so the pretext is to keep you safe, protect you. And so therefore, we're going to ban hate speech by empowering police and prosecutors to lock up people who say things that police and prosecutors feel might be hateful.
Now, C2 you warn about is called the Strong Borders Act, but it would allow them to open your mail, criminalize the use of cash, and warrantless searches What is the justification about the border? How can opening your mail secure the border?
Well, it can't. This piece of legislation, it's 140 pages long, and there is a small chunk of it is actually about border security, and it changes immigration policies. It changes some of the policies that apply to refugee claimants and how quickly they need to apply for refugee status after coming into Canada, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a small portion of this Strong Borders Act which is actually on point. It's actually pertains to our borders and our refugee policies. But then they add on all kinds of stuff like the Authorized Access to Information Act, which would be a new piece of legislation that would give government officials the authority to do warrantless searches of the computers and cell phones of Canadians. Has nothing to do with the borders, but they just want to, sneak it by, slip it through under this big 140-page piece of legislation.
Now, you also say possibly they could bring back the Online Harms Act. And again, you can't legislate a feeling in a free country. I can feel as vile as I want if I'm truly living in a free country. That's my right. But the Online Harms Act would allow prosecution for offensive speech. And the idea that you talked about preemptively punishing your neighbor. So what is the mechanism to tell on your neighbor?
So this Online Harms Act was on track to get passed into law prior to the election that we had in April 2025. With the election, it died on the order paper, so to speak. It didn't go through because it hadn't been passed yet before the election was called. If they bring this back, one of the provisions in the Online Harms Act is that if a neighbor fears that you are going to commit a hate speech crime in the future, they can apply to court, and potentially, if the judge believes your neighbor that you might get into hate speech, you could be placed under house arrest and ordered to wear an ankle bracelet and be subjected to a curfew, et cetera, without having been charged with a crime, without having been convicted. So it's like Minority Report. This is actually in the bill that died before the last election. Some Liberals have talked about bringing this bill back. It also has provisions to empower the Canadian Human Rights Commission to prosecute Canadians for non-criminal offensive speech. And it gives power to the federal cabinet to create all kinds of rules governing the internet and a new digital safety commission to enforce those new rules. It's horrific. If that one gets brought back, again, it's not before the House right now, but if that is brought back and if it's passed along with Bills C2, C8, and C9, if those four things go through, it's going to be absolute tyranny up here as opposed to only partial tyranny as it is presently.
And so what can Canadians do about it? Because why is there not a collective screaming? I mean, what's hilarious is that the No Kings rally extended into Canada. So they're upset about Trump when it has nothing to do with them, but they're not upset about this real, what could be kingly power.
Well, first of all, there are a lot of Canadians have woken up since our rights and freedoms were violated by governments on a massive scale, starting in March 2020 with all the lockdowns and the vaccine passports, the travel restrictions. Became practically impossible to leave Canada for the better part of a year. You were kind of locked up here in the same way that you would have been locked up in a communist country before the fall of the Berlin Wall. But we've got a growing pro-freedom movement in Canada, and most of those people are people who were asleep until March of 2020. So the lockdowns and the mandatory vaccination policies and so on woke up a lot of people. And as recent proof of that, the government has put Bill C2 kind of on the back burner, and they've pulled out the parts pertaining to the immigration, the border, the refugees, and they've put that into a separate bill to fast track it to get that through. And the really bad stuff has been put onto a lower priority. That's in response to pushback from Canadians. So we do have a growing freedom movement. The Justice Centre has got strong support across the country. We are the leading defender of liberty in Canada, and we've got a growing supporter base. So we're definitely fighting back, but we've got a lot of work to do.
Well, thank you for alerting us to this at Redacted. It's jaw-dropping. It really is. So follow along the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. I really enjoy your work, and thank you so much for alerting me to this.
It's an honor to be on your show.